In previous video, I showed you how you can use land cover information, hydrologic condition, and hydrologic soil group to find the value of curve number. But it is important to realize that curve number is a dynamic value, meaning that it changes with antecedent watershed conditions, with antecedent soil moisture conditions, or the change of seasons, or vegetation growth stage. So in this video, I'm going to talk about antecedent runoff conditions, or ARCs. ARCs are a way of measuring curve number around its median value. There are three ARCs, ARC number 1, 2, and 3. I'm going to start with ARC 2 and give you some information about that. ARC 2 represents the average watershed condition. So I'm going to call it the average condition. In order to represent this average condition, you will use the curve number that you found from the table, from the reference table, which was based on land cover, hydrologic condition, and hydrologic soil groups. And I'm going to call this curve number 2 to match ARC2. So this is an average condition, meaning that your watershed is in average condition before the storm. ARC1 represents the dry condition, and ARC3 represents the wet condition. In order to represent ARC1, you will use curve number 1, and in order to represent the wet condition, you will use curve number 3. There is another way of interpreting ARC1 and ARC3. So ARC1 corresponds to 90% exceedance probability of runoff depth for a given rainfall, and ARC3 represents 10% exceedance probability of runoff depth for a given rainfall. Your question right now is that finding curve number 2 was easy. You just need to know your land cover, hydrologic condition, and hydrologic soil group, and you will end up having curve number 2. But how do we find the value of curve number 1 and curve number 3? The answer to this question is that there are multiple graphs and equations in your reference book that you can use to estimate the value of curve number 3 and curve number 1 based on value of curve number 2. For example, United States Department of Agriculture, Natural Resources Conservation Service recommends a set of equations to be able to estimate values of curve number 1 and curve number 3. For example, curve number 3, or the wet condition, can be calculated using curve number 2 by this equation. And similarly, curve number 1 is a function of curve number 2 as well. All right, so right now, you know how to find curve number 2 that represents the average condition, and you know how to use curve number 2 to find a representative curve number for dry condition and wet condition.